or the Asra or Moshe Tzvi. Father Rabbanim for this invite. It's humbling to be speaking in between Moshe Tzvi and Rabbi Newberger in terms of the tefilloh and whatnot. And it's really a challenging topic to talk about. When you think about wanting to give over your emotions from a recent trip, I had the zechus of being in Eretz Yisrael between Christmas and New Year's, and my firm PwC is closed. And when I was thinking about it, the past Shabbos from the Beneritz, on Friday night, he gave a Dvar Halacha. And one of the questions that he asked was, does a soldier who comes out of Gaza for a short period of time have to say a Berachas HaGoma? And he went into that machlokas. And I landed in Eretz Yisrael on Friday, Asar B'Teves. And that Shabbos, I davened in the shul in Modi'in. I was with my brother and sister. I was with my son Eitan, who was there for the year. And they gave me Revi, just an ordinary aliyah. And Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael were three soldiers, 19 or 20 years old, that came out of Gaza for the day. And each one of them recited a Berachas HaGoma. I'm not going into the psak of the machlokas. And I got up to Revi, and I came off an El Al flight, a comfortable plane. And in my heart, my mind said I know what to say Berachas HaGoma. But in my heart, I wasn't able to do it. And you could argue that that wasn't the right decision. It was an instinctive decision that I said to myself, there are three children whose parents are in this room right now, listening to their child say a Berachas HaGoma for coming out of Gaza, who are going right back into Gaza this week, they said. Each one of them. I couldn't say Berachas HaGoma coming off an airplane. And I felt humbled. And I felt small. But I thought about at that moment the reason for my trip. The reason was I was going to learn with my son, Eitan, and spend 4 days in yeshiva. 4 days learning Torah's Eretz Yisrael. As the Rabbanim continue to tell us to do, Rav Asher Weiss tells us to do, Rav Moshe Tzvi just told us to do that, to continue to learn. And I can just say in comment that if you have the opportunity to go, it's important to do all the chesed opportunities, all of them. But take a moment to sit in the base medrash, if you're there with a child, a vada. But take a moment to sit at the kotel, take a moment to sit in the base medrash and just learn, because I'm telling you, the fulfillment that you're going to get in terms of that tefillah and that learning goes way beyond those moments. And I feel that same way right now. I feel that smallness. How could I communicate to you feelings of a trip? I'm not a survivor. I'm not someone like we had, like Amit Ades, we had a couple of days ago, a couple of nights ago, from Kfar Aza. I'm not a first responder. I was just someone that had the opportunity to take 1 day of that trip. And we thank Laser Kornwasser, who organized a group of 20 people from Beth Abraham to go down to the south to visit Be'eri and Naveh. Be'eri was one of the yeshuvim, one of the kibbutzim that was most destroyed on October 7th. And Naveh, on the opposite side of the extreme, is the community that we adopted as congregation Beth Abraham to help them move forward, had nisim giluyim that they were not touched. And I just want to share with you that experience from that day in terms of those emotions and what we could possibly take out from that. Because as I went to Be'eri, our tour guide, who grew up in Be'eri, who was 30 years old, who was a former IDF, said Be'eri has 1,100 people. It's an old style kibbutz. They share cars, they share revenue, they pool income, they have a central dining hall. He knows every single house, he knows every single person. And we were thinking, who are we to be a tourist attraction, so to speak? How dare we? And he said, no, Adarabah. I want you to come and look at it. I want you to see the destruction firsthand. And I want you to go back to your communities and talk about it. Go back to your work. Tell people what you saw. Continue to spread the story of the horrors, because no matter what you're reading on the media, as Moshe Tzvi just said, lo aleinu, but we get desensitized. And he said, I want you to go back to your shuls, to your schools, to your work, and talk about it. And I have a unique perspective, because I was in Be'eri on October 5th. We were in Eretz Yisrael, we had the privilege of being there for Sukkot. And one of the days of Chol Hamoed Sukkot, on Thursday, October 5th, we did an extended family trip to the south. We did a bike ride around Be'eri on a bike trail. And we did some ATVing with an IDF, former IDF personnel who are now trying to raise funds to protect the area. and they showed us where Gaza was, and they showed us the wall, and they showed us the Iron Dome. On October 5th, they were telling us how safe and secure they feel. And that tour guide, his name was Ilan. I didn't even get his last name, but I have pictures with him, and I look at them all the time because he was killed on October 7th. And all of us have connections to people, 1 degree of separation. And from my perspective, and my family's perspective, that was something that was so close. And the first thing that I saw, coming back to the area as we drove down in a van, was that bike shop. It's the first thing I saw. And it is now an army base filled with tanks and soldiers protecting. And it looks totally different, but the markers are still there. The signs are still there. Come and rent bikes, take your trail, do what you got to do. Looks exactly the same, but how vastly so different. The second thing we saw was a beautiful building that wasn't touched. And it's a printing press. Not any printing press. It is the biggest printing press in the Middle East. And it services the entire Middle East. But it was closed on the morning of Shmini Atzeres. This is not a Frum Yishuv, but it was closed on the morning of Shmini Atzeres. And therefore, everyone there was spared. Whoever was working there probably would have been killed. And like I said, we were greeted by this tour guide who wanted to take us around, and he explained to us what you're gonna see. And he's like, I don't want you taking pictures of everything that you see, because many of these homes have children who don't have parents who don't have children. They don't want to see things on social media. They don't want to see things being spread around. They don't want to see you passing it around. They don't want you looking at it from their pain. I will tell you, because there are certain houses I want you to take pictures of, certain houses I want you to record, and that's how I want you to go about it. There were 400 terrorists that attacked the area. And there were 1,100 people in 300 homes. There were more than about a terrorist per home, more than a terrorist per home that were assigned. And he said the methodical way that they went about this, you don't read in the media. They brought special machines to cut off the rooftops. He's like, let me look at these houses. Let me show you why the rooftops are all cut off before they burn them out. The rooftops are all cut off because they brought special machinery, understanding what material the roof was made out of to cut open the roof, that they could stand on the upper levels as a lookout. Because they all thought, the terrorists thought, whoever is going to come in their way, they're going to kill. And the IDF is going to come within a few hours. They're going to hear about what's going on. And they wanted to be able to shoot them as they came into the area. They were very strategic about which houses they did that to. As we got off that van, you hear the artillery from Gaza. You hear the tanks firing, and you get shuddered. You're a mile from the war. And you feel it, and it jumps. And he says to us, don't worry about it. That's Israeli artillery fighting into Gaza. That's into Gaza. You're safe. As he said the word, you're safe, we look up and we see an explosion of an Iron Dome missile intercepting another missile right above us. And he says, you're safe, I promise. But if a siren goes off, just hit the ground. And I will tell you when to get out. Because there are no safe houses here anymore. There's no bomb shelters. There's nowhere to run. Just hit the ground. And for that moment, you feel like you're in a war. You're mamish a mile from the war. And the first house that he took us to was an attached house where 2 brothers lived. You saw the families. You saw the fresh destruction of a peaceful living turning into a hell in a matter of hours. You see the clothes strewn all over the place. You see the shoes. You see the refrigerator that was open. You see bullet holes throughout. You see grenades, old grenades. You see all this type of destruction in a home. Laser showed me a picture of when he took of a Yankee hat. A Yankee cap that had to be of a child, a small child who just liked baseball possibly, or maybe he had no idea who the Yankees were, sitting on the floor in the rubble. And these type of things, these type of images had such an impact on you because it's so real. And I don't like to make the comparisons, lo aleinu, but when we go to Auschwitz, and those of us who've had the opportunity to do so, and my father-in-law has done this over and over and over again, sometimes it feels like a museum. It's so distant. It's so far. This was so close. This was so real. This wasn't a wall of shoes. This was shoes and socks and things strewn along the lawn. And he took us into that backyard and he said, this is the exact spot where a mother was killed and she was hugging her daughter. And this was the exact spot that a father was killed embracing his son. House after house, Hamas had control of the area for almost 3 days. There were 96 people brutally massacred, 30 hostages taken, 18 have been returned alive and 2 dead. And there are 2 people still accounted for as they continue to comb through the ash to try and do what they can to identify. And many of these stories are very, very similar. Elderly grandparents in one section of the kibbutz all taken out, slaughtered either in their homes or he said brought out to the fence and killed in a line. But there's one story that I want to focus on for a moment or two. The house of Avida Bachar and his wife. They didn't mention his wife's name. He was a peace activist and she was a teacher. 2 of their children were home on the morning of October 7th, Hadar and Carmel. And they were attacked. And they went into their safe room. And remember, these doors are not locked. Safe rooms, as they explained, are built for bombs. They're not, we asked the question, why don't you have a lock on the door? Because if it gets bombed, you have to have someone to be able to get inside. They're not pictured for people just attacking you. And what this tour guide told us, he said, if you want to leave, you don't have to listen to this. But we all stayed in that room. We went into that bomb shelter, and it was full of bullet holes. And he said, imagine there's blood all over the place. And there's a 13-year-old girl, Hadar. And when he said that name to me, Hadar, on Shmini Atzeres, you're thinking, pre-AIDS Hadar. I never knew this woman, I never knew this 13-year-old girl, but she had to have such a beautiful neshama. Because what she did was that she brought her father was in the room, her mother was in the room, her father got shot, his leg was bleeding out in multiple places, and she put a tourniquet on it. And he played for us the voice notes from that room that she was sending to the group, WhatsApp group of the Moshav, asking people for help, begging and pleading. My father is bleeding. My mom is probably dead. She's not responding. Carmel, my brother is injured. Please come and help. This is why she had 6 bullets in her arms and legs and calling for help. The terrorists then, she says, they started to smoke us out. I'm choking. We're dying of smoke. So each one of the bomb shelters there have a window. There's a metal thing, and you hear in the voice notes, the guns, you hear the bullets banging against this metal door. And she has to open it because she can't breathe. As she opens the window, a grenade comes in the room. And it lands on the side and it explodes in the room. And she still is surviving. And she knows her mother's probably dead. Her brother's probably dead. And she says, stay with us. Mommy, stay with us. Stay with us. Don't close your eyes. Carmel, stay with us. We love you. Stay with us. This is how you capture the devastation, making it so real. There were 400 children in Be'eri on October 6th. And now there are 350. How many Yisomim, how many Almanos, how many people that are struggling? And it made it so harsh in terms of looking at it and bringing that home, person to person to person. And from there we went to Naveh. And Naveh was spared because of Chazdei Hashem. They said that there was a tank that was rolling in the early morning that had 50 terrorists coming to Naveh and wiped out all 50 terrorists, and they only found this out after the fact. And the person, Sion, who took us through, Naveh is a from Yishuv, took us through and showed us the desert land. He's like, we're living amongst desert. But look what we were able to do from an agricultural perspective, using amazing technology to grow. It looks like fertile land, growing on the desert. Seeing the Nisan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Galuyim, and they live in such peace. They live on the Egyptian border. And he says, look, there's 2 tanks and 6 soldiers guarding the Egyptian border because of the peace treaty. But we don't have enough machinery. We don't have enough video cameras. We don't have enough this, enough that. And that's what our community is helping them with. And his wife and his daughters made us a beautiful lunch. And they said to us, please tell your congregation, please tell the people of Abraham to come visit us. It gives us chizuk, growing forward. We have a mincha in their beautiful, beautiful shul. And we saw the optimism that they had, understanding that they were 100% spared, and he was with us on the tour of the Be'eri, and was comparing and contrasting that this could have been us, if not for our Kodesh Baruch Hu sparing us with a Nes Nigla. Laser told me one quick story that I just want to say the point, that he went to the hospitals as well to visit all the soldiers and to do a lot of different types of chesed. And he said, I can't mention his name, but I said I had to mention his name. And he said that one of the soldiers was really, really hurt in one of the tanks while the artillery was shot through, bullets went through him, 100% through him, paralyzed from the waist down, really, really bad shape. And Laser said, I was talking to him and the guy looked up at him with a smile and said, They just said, I just have to ask, like, how are you smiling? And it's like two ways of looking at life. I could look at the past, and I could look at the future and what I don't have anymore. I'm never going to walk. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. Or I can see the opportunities that I have in front of me to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The opportunities that I have in front of me to hopefully one day build a family. And it means Hashem, that's going to be my focus. That's the type of chizuk that you're seeing, and that's the type of emunah that is coming out of Klal Yisrael. I want to close with a pasuk that I thought of when I went through all of this. It's in the landing on Tisha B'Av in Parshat Eschana. And it's hit me. Because the landing on Tisha B'Av is a little bit morbid at the beginning, and then it gets very positive at the end. And the pasuk says, Hashama im kol Elokim medaber mitoch ha'esh, kasher shamata ata vayechi. Has any people heard the voice of God speaking out of a fire and survived? The pasuk is referring to Mount Har Sinai. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to us mitoch ha'esh, we actually heard the voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we should have died, and He allowed us to live. Comments to Bechor Shor. Klomar nisim kefulim asal l'chal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Acha sheshamata mashalo shama ada be'olam. One thing that no other man has ever heard the voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Va'acha shenitzalta b'mashalo yuchal adam lihin hatzel. And second, they were saved from things that humans were never able to be saved of. Perhaps thinking of either, he doesn't explain, the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim, what led up to the Kriyas Yamsuf, what led up to Mount Har Sinai. But perhaps we could use that to explain the pasuk in a different way. Hashama in kol Elokim medaber mitoch ha'esh kasher shamata. Has anyone heard the harsh voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the fire, through the destruction? There has to be the voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to us. That's the only way to explain it, and we can't explain it. Vayechi, would any other people be able to survive? It's impossible, because there's no amunah. There's no real understanding of what God is. We're the only people, Hashama kol Elokim medaber mitoch ha'esh. We see and hear the destruction, and we see it live. Vayechi. And we're going to not only just live, but we're going to thrive as we continue to move forward. And that's the optimism that you see in Eretz Yisrael. Just taking a cab with a from cabbie, with a from get driver. He said, I'm so happy you're here. The economy is struggling. Spend some money. Go out to the restaurants. I'm having a little bit of difficulty. You give them the extra tip at the end, of course, and they're so appreciative just of the day-to-day activity going on in Yerushalayim. What we have to take from this is that if you live to hate, it will only lead to destruction. If you live to love, you will build, create, and prosper. My trip closed with a full yeshiva Torah Shalaga visit to Kever Rachel. And reflecting on the Medrash of Rachel, Rabbi Natan Leibowitz said that she was crying for her people for the Geula and for each neshama that was taken early. And what we try and hold on to is our emunah in so many deep and challenging ways that we have during this challenging time. But Rachel is there for us, crying and davening, understanding that the Geula has to be that much closer. And hopefully our collective tefilloh should be answered, as we should all be able to continue to hear that voice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the flames of Torah and tefillah, and ultimately see Yeshuos and Achamos in our days and all days to come. And here, Amen.
V'shevera avoteinu Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov u'yevarech et chayalei tzahagana leYisrael u'yevarech et chayalei tzahagana leYisrael u'yevarech et chayalei Swahagana Yisrael Al Mishmar Artzeinu Ve'arei Eloheinu Yigevol HaLevanon Bar Mitzrayim Umin Hayam Hagadol Anevo Harava Vayabasha Ba'avir Ba'avir Vayam Kevareh Et Chayalei Tzvahagana Yisrael Iten Adonai Eloheinu Hakamim Aleinu Nigafim Lifneihem Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yishmor Till El Chayaleinu Mikol Tzara V'Tzukal Mikol Nega U'Machala V'Yishlach Bracha V'Hatzlacha V'Chol Ma'aseh Yedeihem V'Yishlach Bracha V'Hatzlacha Bechol Maaseh Yedeihem Yader Zonenu Tachtehem V'yadrem Echeter Yeshua V'atzeret Nitzachon V'kuyam Bahem Hakadol V'kuyam Bahem HaKatov Ki Adonai Elohechem Alechi Machem Livachem Lachem Oivechem Loshia Etchem B'noma Ki Adonai Elohechem Alechi Machem Livachem Lachem Oivechem Loshia Etchem B'noma Yishiverach Avaseinu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Moshe Levinu Shlomo Hu Yivarech V'Yishmor V'Yintzor Es Nedrei Tzvahagana V'Yisrael V'Shuyah V'Kol Achinu Anatunim B'Tzara V'Shivya B'Avur Shekol HaKal HaKadosh Hazeh V'Kolel B'Avuram HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimaleh Rachamim Aleihem V'Yotzieh B'Choshech V'Tzalma V'Esamos V'Oseihem Yinatek to Kosehem Yoshiem Yishiveh Mehira L'Chedush V'Choteihem Yodu L'Adonai Chasav V'Chlotor V'Bnei Adam V'Yikuram B'Yam Mikra Shekator V'Ftei Adonai Yeshuvot V'Barat Zion B'Yuna V'Simcha V'Salam Al Rosham Sasu V'Simcha Yasigo V'Nasu Yagom V'Nacham V'Namar Amen.
Amen. Tehillim Perek Chaf, Lam Natseya. Chapter 20. Lam Natseya, Mizmor L'Doveh.
Lam Natseya.
Yisagem Choshem B'Lei Yaakov. Shem Eloheinu Nidgol Yimalei Adonai Kol Mishalei Sefer Adonai Meshicha Yadeo Mishmei Kodeshai Bikurois Yesha Yemina אנחנו בשם אדוני אלוהינו נזכיר. אנחנו בשם אדוני אנחנו קמנו מניסינו. המלך יעננו ביום קראנו. Kuf Mem Beis 142. Maskil v'David v'Yosai v'Amaros v'Lo. It's a table I ruchi amatoya daton sibo sibo ayrach zualech kom nu vachli. From the river to Yaakov approach this idea. It's the leaf that we must see left out this evening. Before we say Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael together, I was thinking that that become almost an anthem of Klal Yisrael. Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael. Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael. That one phrase does not come from the Mishnah; it comes from the Gemara. It comes from the time of Avraham and God. We don't really know how he put it together. But he's trying to figure out what was going through the minds of the Gaonim who put it together from the terms that they use. Word Achenu, first time it appears in Chumash, is Neged Achenu Aker Lecho Mo'i Modi B'Kach. Yaakov Avinu says to Lavan, Neged Achenu, in front of all those who are present, you won't be able to find the trophy that you're looking for. He had just said that if you find the trophy, the person you find them with won't live. That was a moment of great tragedy to Klal Yisrael and great tragedy to Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu would never, because of that moment, be able to close the link and bring Rachel to meet Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu would then go on to suffer the greatest tragedies of his life without Rachel. And have to raise Binyamin without a mother. And that's when he says, Neged Achenu Aker Lecho. When Yaakov did not really know what was the flaw that was going to bring Rachel's death. Yaakov Avinu did not know what he was missing at that time. And there's so many times when we say Achenu, and we don't know what is the Baruch Hu expecting. We don't know what the Trophim are, and we don't know who took the Trophim. And we don't know how to put the Trophim back. That's Achenu. And the phrase, Kol Beis Yisrael, appears in Chumash at the end of Shmos. It is the moment of redemption. It's when the Mishkan is complete and the Kadosh Baruch Hu once again comes to be with Klal Yisrael. The Einei Kol Beis Yisrael B'chol Masei. So when we say on the Sunim Batzora, there are two tzoras. There's the Achenu, the tzora of not really knowing what Hashem expects of us. And we scramble and we find each one tries to do our own people. We don't really know where the trophy. And we say, Kol Beis Yisrael B'tzora Gedola, we don't have Mishkan or Shechina, the Baruch Hu is not comfortable with us. That's the Nesuna B'tzora. When we say Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, think the Rebbeinu Shalom, we are that Achenu, Keneged Achenu. We're also the Kol Beis Yisrael that ultimately will once again be together with the Shechina. We hope that Baruch Hu will move us from Achenu to be the Kol Beis Yisrael. We have a moment of the evening of learning, in this chus of learning, this chus of Tillim. We'll go on with Hashem to put out the opportunities that over the course of the yeshiva break, that everybody should have a chance to increase the learning, your families, yourselves, wherever you are, and during yeshiva break, that maybe learn an extra Mishnah, an extra parak. We'll put little later on tonight, that tomorrow, the opportunity to sign up so the whole shul can accomplish a lot of learning over the course of the next few weeks. That, of course, will be a great source for ourselves and Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael.
No, it's not.